Boy takes a selfie at the park, zooms in on photo, and sees a strange reflection in the pond behind him. Leo Morgan couldn't remember the last time he had truly been alone with his thoughts. Between the crushing weight of senior year, his parents' constant bickering that filled every corner of their house, and the endless social media notifications that demanded his attention, silence had become a foreign concept. That's why he found himself at Willow Creek Nature Park on a crisp October Saturday, camera bag slung over his shoulder, breathing in air that tasted like freedom. No homework deadlines. No arguments about college applications. Just him and his Canon DSLR, a 16th birthday present that had become his most prized possession. Perfect, Leo whispered, adjusting his lens as he captured a red-tailed hawk soaring overhead against the backdrop of amber and crimson leaves. Photography had been his escape for nearly 2 years now. Behind the viewfinder, the world made sense. There was order in composition, meaning in light and shadow. He followed a winding trail that led deeper into the park, stopping occasionally to capture whatever caught his eye. A butterfly resting on a withered flower, sunlight filtering through branches, rocks worn smooth by the creek. The further he ventured, the lighter his shoulders felt, as though each step shed another layer of teenage anxiety. After an hour of wandering, Leo arrived at Stillwater Pond, the park's hidden gem. Few visitors ventured this far into the conservation area, which suited him perfectly. The pond's surface was a mirror today, reflecting the surrounding trees like a perfect painting. Leo sat on a flat boulder near the water's edge, letting his fingertips graze the cool surface, watching ripples distort his reflection. Might as well document this moment of peace, he muttered to himself, switching his camera to selfie mode and holding it at arm's length. He positioned himself with the pond as his backdrop, capturing both his face and the reflection of the forest behind him. He snapped several shots, not paying much attention to the details. They were just casual photos, nothing like his usual carefully composed work. When the afternoon shadows began to lengthen, Leo reluctantly packed up his equipment. The real world was waiting, and he couldn't hide in the woods forever, no matter how tempting the idea seemed. That evening, after enduring another tense family dinner where his parents communicated primarily through requests to pass the salt, Leo retreated to his room. He connected his camera to his laptop and began scrolling through the day's photographs. The landscapes were stunning. He'd captured the essence of autumn in every frame. But when he reached the selfies by the pond, something made him pause. There was nothing special about the composition. Just his face, slightly wind-flushed, hair tousled, with the glassy pond behind him reflecting the trees on the opposite shore. But something about the reflection nagged at him. Leo zoomed in on the water, enhanced the resolution, and adjusted the contrast. His breath caught in his throat. In the reflection of the distant tree-line, barely visible but unmistakably there, stood a figure. A person wearing a bright orange jacket, standing motionless among the trees across the pond. Leo hadn't noticed anyone else during his time there. He would have remembered seeing such a vividly colored jacket. "What the?" Leo whispered, leaning closer to his screen. The figure was too far away to make out facial features, but the stance suggested they were watching the pond, watching him. A chill ran down Leo's spine. Had someone been observing him the entire time? He zoomed in further, straining to extract more detail from the pixels, but the image began to blur. Still, there was something about that orange jacket. Something familiar, though Leo couldn't place it. His phone buzzed beside him, breaking his concentration. A news alert illuminated the screen. Search continues for missing hiker in Willow Creek Park. Family pleads for information. Curious, Leo opened the article. Daniel Reeds, a 28-year-old environmental engineer, had disappeared while hiking in Willow Creek 5 days ago. The search had been concentrated in the northern trails, but despite extensive efforts by local authorities and volunteer teams, no trace had been found. Leo scrolled through the article, skimming the details, when his finger froze over a photograph. It showed Daniel Reeds smiling widely on what appeared to be another hiking trip. He was wearing a distinctive orange jacket with black trim on the shoulders and a small logo on the left chest pocket. The same jacket that was visible in Leo's photograph. Leo's heart hammered against his ribs as he switched back and forth between the news photo and his own. The orange color, the black trim, the position of the logo, they matched. But how could Daniel Reeds be standing in the woods 5 days after being reported missing? And why wouldn't he have approached the search parties that had been combing the area? Unless he couldn't. The thought sent ice through Leo's veins. He enlarged the photo again, studying the figure's posture. Was he simply standing there, or was he propped against something? Was he watching Leo, or was he unable to move? Leo pulled up the park's trail map on his computer. Stillwater Pond was in the southern section, at least 3 miles from where the search teams had been focusing their efforts. If Daniel had wandered off trail or gotten disoriented, he could have ended up in an entirely different area than where everyone was looking. For nearly an hour, Leo scrutinized every pixel of his photograph, comparing it with the news images, looking for anything that might confirm or disprove his suspicion. The more he looked, the more convinced he became that the figure in his photo was wearing the same distinctive jacket as the missing hiker. Sleep evaded Leo that night. He tossed and turned, haunted by the image of the distant figure in orange. What if Daniel Reeds was still out there, injured or trapped? What if Leo's casual selfie was the only clue to his whereabouts? The responsibility weighed on him like concrete. By morning, Leo had made up his mind. After breakfast, he approached his parents, who were surprised to see him voluntarily joining them on a Sunday morning. "I need to go to the police station," he announced, clutching his laptop to his chest. His father looked up from his newspaper, eyebrows raised. "What for?" Leo explained about his discovery, showing them the enhanced photograph and the news article side by side. His mother's face paled as she studied the images. "Leo, honey, that could be anyone in an orange jacket," she said gently. "It's the exact same jacket," Leo insisted. "And look at the location. The search teams are miles away from where this photo was taken." His father sighed, setting down his coffee mug. "Even if it is the same person, which is a stretch, that photo could have been from any day. Maybe he was there before he went missing." "Dad, I took this yesterday afternoon," Leo said, frustration creeping into his voice. 5 days after he disappeared. This could be important. What if he's injured? What if he needs help right now while we're sitting here arguing about it?" His parents exchanged looks, that silent communication that Leo had grown to resent. "Fine," his father finally said. "I'll drive you to the station. But don't get your hopes up, son. The police know what they're doing." The Oak Ridge police station was quiet for a Sunday morning. Officer Martinez, a woman with tired eyes and a kind smile, listened patiently as Leo explained his theory. She examined the photographs on his laptop, zooming in on the figure in the reflection. "It's certainly interesting," she admitted. "But Mr. Morgan, reflections in water can be distorted. What looks like an orange jacket could be autumn foliage reflected in the ripples. But it matches the description of what Daniel Reeds was wearing when he disappeared," Leo argued. "And no one's looking in that area of the park." Officer Martinez made a few notes. "I'll pass this along to the detective handling the case, but I want to be honest with you, this is very thin evidence. The search teams are using trained dogs, thermal imaging, and experienced trackers. If Daniel Reeds was in that area, they would likely have found some trace of him by now." Leo left the police station feeling deflated. His father remained silent during the ride home, but Leo could feel the unspoken "I told you so" hanging in the air between them. Later that afternoon, while scrolling through social media to distract himself, Leo came across a post that made his heart race. Daniel Reed's younger sister, Emily, had created a page dedicated to finding her brother. She had posted recent photos, details about his disappearance, and contact information for anyone with leads. Without hesitation, Leo clicked on the message button. Someone needed to take his discovery seriously, and if the police wouldn't, maybe Daniel's family would. As he typed out his message to Emily Reeds, attaching his photograph with the reflection circled in red, Leo couldn't shake the feeling that he was stepping into something much bigger than a missing person case. Something about that solitary figure in the orange jacket, standing motionless while search parties combed the woods miles away, felt wrong. Deeply, disturbingly wrong. And despite every rational part of his brain telling him to leave it alone, Leo knew he couldn't. Not until he discovered the truth behind the reflection in Stillwater Pond. 3 days had passed since Leo's visit to the police station, and the silence was deafening. No follow-up calls, no emails, nothing to suggest that Officer Martinez had taken his discovery seriously. Each morning, Leo checked the local news, hoping to see a headline announcing Daniel Reeds had been found. Instead, the updates grew increasingly grim, with search efforts being scaled back, and hopes dimming with each passing day. "You need to let this go," his mother said over breakfast, noticing Leo refreshing the news page for the third time. "The police and park rangers know what they're doing. You're just a kid with a blurry photo." "I'm 17, Mom," Leo muttered. "And that blurry photo might be the only lead they have." His father folded his newspaper with a sigh. "Son, I understand you want to help, but getting involved in a missing person case could be dangerous. What if whoever's in that photo isn't Reeds at all? What if it's someone who doesn't want to be found?" The suggestion sent a chill down Leo's spine, but he shook it off. "That's exactly why we should tell someone who'll listen. We've already told the authorities," his father countered. "Now it's time to step back and let them handle it. I don't want you getting mixed up in something potentially dangerous." Leo merely nodded, knowing further argument was pointless. But inside, his resolve hardened. Someone had to care about the truth, and apparently, that someone was him. After school, Leo locked himself in his room and pulled up the article about Daniel Reeds again. This time, he studied every detail about the missing hiker. Daniel was an environmental engineer who specialized in water quality assessment. He was described as an experienced outdoorsman who knew the trails of Willow Creek Park like the back of his hand. So how had he gotten lost? Or had something else happened to him? Leo zoomed in on the photo of Daniel in his orange jacket. It wasn't just any jacket, it had distinctive black panels on the shoulders and a small emblem on the chest pocket. Leo searched online and discovered it was from a boutique outdoor clothing brand called Alpine Summit, known for handcrafted, small batch designs that weren't widely available. "This isn't coincidence," Leo whispered to himself. He pulled up his own photograph again, enhancing the reflection as much as possible. Though pixelated, the black shoulder panels were visible on the orange jacket in his image. The same unusual design. A notification popped up on his screen, a message from Emily Reeds, Daniel's sister. "I got your photo. Can we talk?" "This is the first new lead in days." Leo's heart raced as he replied, suggesting they meet at a coffee shop near the park entrance the following afternoon. Emily agreed immediately. That night at dinner, Leo's parents were discussing weekend plans when he casually mentioned he'd be meeting a friend after school. "Anyone we know?" his mother asked. Leo hesitated. "Just someone from photography club. We're comparing techniques." The lie tasted bitter, but Leo knew his parents would forbid the meeting if they knew the truth. This was too important to let their fear stand in his way. Emily Reeds was nothing like Leo had imagined. From her brother's rugged appearance in photos, he'd expected someone similarly outdoorsy. Instead, Emily was fashionably dressed with perfectly manicured nails and sleek dark hair. Only her reddened eyes and the shadows beneath them betrayed her distress. "Thank you for meeting me," she said, clutching her coffee cup like a lifeline. "The police won't tell me anything anymore. They've practically written Daniel off as another statistic, a hiker who overestimated his abilities." "That doesn't sound right," Leo said. "The articles say he was experienced." "He was." Emily's voice cracked. "Daniel could navigate Willow Creek blindfolded. He went there weekly to collect water samples for his research. Something happened to him, something that has nothing to do with getting lost." Leo pulled out his laptop and showed Emily the enhanced image. "I took this 3 days ago at Stillwater Pond. The police dismissed it as a distorted reflection, but that's Danny's jacket." Emily interrupted, leaning forward. "He had it custom-made last year. Alpine Summit. They only produce 30 in that color scheme. Leo nodded. I figured out the brand, but wasn't sure about the rarity. The search teams have been focusing entirely on the northern trails, Emily said. I told them Danny sometimes went off-trail to reach remote water testing sites, but they insisted on following standard search protocols. They won't listen to me. They wouldn't listen to me either, Leo admitted. Emily's eyes hardened with determination. Then we don't need them. I've got my brother's maps of the park in my car. Tomorrow's Saturday. Can you take me to exactly where you took that photo? Leo hesitated, his father's warning echoing in his mind. But looking at Emily's pleading expression, at the hope his discovery had given her, he knew he couldn't back out now. I'll meet you at the main entrance at 9, he said. Wear hiking boots. The trail to Stillwater Pond gets pretty rough in places. As Emily left the coffee shop, Leo felt a mixture of excitement and apprehension. Tomorrow, they would either prove his theory right or put it to rest forever. Either way, there was no turning back now. What Leo didn't notice was the man sitting 2 tables away, who had been pretending to read a newspaper while listening to every word they said. Saturday morning greeted Willow Creek Park with a light mist that clung to the treetops and shrouded the forest in an ethereal glow. Leo arrived early, double-checking the batteries in his camera and the coordinates he'd extracted from his photos' metadata. He'd left a vague note for his parents claiming he was working on a photography project with friends. Another lie, but a necessary one. At precisely 9, Emily's blue Subaru pulled into the parking lot. She emerged wearing hiking boots, cargo pants, and a determined expression that reminded Leo of the photos he'd seen of her brother. I brought these, Emily said, unfolding a detailed topographical map of the park on her hood. Danny marked all his usual spots. The official search never went anywhere near Stillwater Pond. Leo studied the map. That's strange. It's not that remote. Nothing about this search has made sense, Emily replied, her voice tight. It's like they're deliberately looking in the wrong places. They set off down the main trail, moving at a brisk pace. Leo led them past 3 different forks, each time choosing the path less traveled. The well-maintained trails gradually gave way to narrower, rougher paths. By the time they reached the final stretch to Stillwater Pond, they were pushing through underbrush and ducking under low-hanging branches. The search team seriously never came this way? Leo asked, holding a branch aside for Emily. She shook her head. When I suggested expanding the search, the coordinator said they were following established protocols for missing hikers. But Danny wasn't just some tourist who wandered off the map. He knew exactly where he was going. When they finally emerged at Stillwater Pond, the morning mist was still rising from the water's surface in ghostly tendrils. Leo positioned himself on the same flat boulder where he'd taken his selfie. This is it, he said, pulling up the photo on his phone. And according to this, the reflection showed someone standing over there, across the pond. Emily squinted across the water. That's nearly a quarter mile through dense woods. How do we even get over there? Leo scanned the shoreline. There has to be a path. Let's circle around. They began walking counterclockwise around the pond, searching for any break in the thick vegetation that might indicate a trail. After 20 minutes of careful scanning, Emily suddenly froze. Look, she whispered, pointing to a narrow gap between 2 large rhododendron bushes. It wasn't immediately obvious, but once Leo focused, he could see that the undergrowth had been disturbed. Small branches were broken at consistent heights, and the leaf litter on the ground showed subtle signs of compression, a path rarely taken but definitely there. Someone's been through here, Leo confirmed. Recently too. Emily was already pushing her way through the gap. This isn't on any official trail map. The hidden path was treacherous, muddy in spots, overgrown in others. They moved slowly, marking their route with Emily's bright pink trail tape. After about 15 minutes of difficult hiking, the trees began to thin. We must be getting close to where? Leo began, then stopped abruptly as his foot caught on something metallic half buried in the mud. He crouched down and carefully extracted the object, a small compass with a cracked face and a distinctive engraving on the back. Emily gasped. "That's Danny's! Our dad gave it to him when he finished college." Leo handed her the compass, and Emily turned it over with trembling fingers, revealing the inscription. "Find your own path. Love, Dad." "He was here," she whispered, eyes glistening. "This proves it." Renewed determination propelled them forward. A few minutes later, Emily spotted a scrap of fabric caught on a thorny bush. "This is from his backpack," she said, carefully removing the torn nylon strap. "The police need to see this." But when Leo pulled out his phone to document their finds, there was no signal. "We'll have to head back to call them." They continued a little further, wanting to reach the spot where the figure had been standing in Leo's photo before turning back. As they emerged into a small clearing, Leo realized they'd found it. The position matched perfectly with the angle of his reflection photo. "This is it," he confirmed, glancing around. "Whoever was in that orange jacket was standing right here when I took my selfie." Emily scanned the clearing frantically. "But there's nothing here. No more clues, no sign of..." A metallic glint caught Leo's eye. Partially concealed by fallen leaves and positioned about 7 feet up a nearby oak tree was a small device with a lens. "Emily," he said quietly, pointing. "Don't move." She followed his gaze and froze. "Is that a camera?" Leo moved closer, examining it without touching it. It was a motion-activated trail camera, the kind hunters and wildlife researchers use to track animal movements. But it wasn't marked with any Park Service or research institution logos. "This isn't part of the official search," Leo said. "Park rangers would have put their equipment at ground level, and they'd have marked it clearly. Someone's been watching this area," Emily whispered. "But why?" As they stared at the hidden camera, the implications slowly dawned on them. The search teams avoiding this area. The hidden trail. The surveillance camera. "Someone doesn't want your brother to be found," Leo said, his voice barely audible. "And now they know we're looking." A twig snapped somewhere in the forest behind them. Both teenagers whirled around, suddenly aware of how isolated they were. "We need to go," Emily said urgently. "Now. And we need to call someone we can trust." As they hurried back along their marked path, Leo couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. The forest, which had seemed so peaceful just days ago, now felt like it was hiding secrets in every shadow, secrets that someone was willing to go to great lengths to protect. Leo and Emily made it back to the main trail without incident, though every rustle in the undergrowth had them jumping. Once safely in Emily's car, they examined their findings: the broken compass and torn backpack straps sealed in Ziploc bags. "We need to take these to the police," Emily said, her hands still trembling slightly. Leo nodded, though doubt not at him. "What if they dismiss this evidence too? That Officer Martinez didn't seem very interested in my photo." "This is different," Emily insisted. "These are physical items that belong to Danny. They can't ignore this." But when they arrived at the Oak Ridge police station, they were told that Detective Collins, who was leading the search, wouldn't be available until Monday. Officer Martinez agreed to log their evidence, but seemed skeptical about their claims of a hidden camera. "Kids your age have vivid imaginations," she said with a patronizing smile. "Let's wait for Detective Collins to evaluate everything before jumping to conclusions about surveillance equipment." Emily's frustration was palpable as they left the station. "Monday could be too late. Danny's already been missing for over a week. At least they have the evidence now," Leo said, trying to sound more optimistic than he felt. "And we have the coordinates of the clearing. We can go back with the police on Monday." They parted ways reluctantly, promising to text each other with any new developments. Leo returned home to find his parents surprisingly uninterested in his day, a relief, since he didn't feel up to crafting more lies. That night, exhausted but restless, Leo transferred the photos from his camera to his laptop, including new shots he'd taken of the hidden trail and clearing. He was about to close his laptop when a notification pinged, an email from an address he didn't recognize. The subject line read simply, "Stop looking." Leo's blood ran cold as he opened the message. There was no text, just an image attachment. With shaking hands, he clicked it open. It was a photo of him and Emily at the clearing earlier that day, clearly taken from the hidden camera they'd discovered. Their faces were circled in red. Leo immediately tried calling Emily, but the call went straight to voicemail. He sent her a screenshot of the email with the message. "We're being watched. Be careful." Sleep was impossible. Leo lay awake, jumping at every sound outside his window. Who had sent that email? How had they gotten his address? The questions chased each other in circles until dawn broke. When Leo finally drifted off, he was awakened by his phone buzzing with a text from Emily. "Meet me at the park entrance. Right now." The urgency in her message propelled Leo out of bed. He was at Willow Creek Park 30 minutes later, finding Emily pacing beside her car, her face pale with anger. "Someone's been there," she said without preamble. "The trail, they've cleared it." "What do you mean?" "I couldn't sleep, so I came early to check the area again," Emily explained. "The hidden path we found yesterday? It's been widened overnight. All the undergrowth has been cut back. Our pink trail markers are gone." Leo stared at her in disbelief. "But why would someone? To make it look like it's always been a normal path," Emily finished. "They're erasing evidence that it was hidden." They hurried along the now conspicuously clear path to the clearing. As Emily had said, it looked completely different. What had been a narrow, overgrown trail was now a clear, if rustic, path. The brush had been cut back, fallen logs removed. Worse still, when they reached the clearing, the camera was gone, and there was no sign of the trampled area where they'd found the compass and backpack strap. "They're covering their tracks," Leo whispered. Emily's phone chimed. She pulled it out, frowning at the notification. "It's from Danny's email." She opened the message, her expression shifting from confusion to outrage as she read aloud. I'm fine. Needed to get away for a while. Please stop looking and tell the police to call off the search. I'll come home when I'm ready. Love, D." "That's not from your brother," Leo said immediately. "Of course it's not," Emily agreed, her voice tight with fury. "Danny would never worry our family like this. And he always signs his emails with his full name, not just D. Someone's trying to shut down the search by making it look like he left voluntarily." Leo's mind raced. "This is bigger than we thought. Someone with resources is actively covering this up. The cleared trail, the missing camera, the fake email." "But why?" Emily demanded. "What could Danny possibly have seen or known that would make someone go to these lengths?" Leo thought about the area where they'd found the evidence. "Stillwater Pond is on the edge of the park, right? What's beyond it?" Emily pulled up a map on her phone. "Private land, mostly. Some old industrial property and a large undeveloped tract owned by Meridian Development Corporation." Leo's eyes widened. "Wait, I've seen that name in the news recently. There was controversy about them trying to get permits for some project despite environmental concerns." Realization dawned on Emily's face. "Danny's an environmental engineer. His specialty is water quality assessment. What if he found something during his regular testing? Something that could derail Meridian's plans? Something worth silencing him for," Leo added grimly. They looked at each other, the full implications sinking in. This wasn't just about finding a missing hiker anymore. This was about uncovering a potentially criminal conspiracy, one with the resources and determination to erase evidence and manipulate an official police investigation. "We need to be careful," Leo said quietly. "If they're watching us this closely, they must be scared of what we might find." Emily squared her shoulders, a steely resolve replacing her earlier distress. "Being careful doesn't mean stopping. It means being smarter than they are." As they walked back to the parking lot, formulating their next move, either noticed the unmarked van parked at the far end, or the man inside, photographing their every move. Leo couldn't sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the threatening email with their faces circled in red. After tossing and turning until 2 a.m., he got up and returned to his laptop. If Meridian Development was involved in Daniel's disappearance, there had to be evidence somewhere. Leo began scouring news articles, environmental reports, and public records related to the company. By dawn, his eyes were burning, but he'd compiled a disturbing pattern. Meridian had a history of skirting environmental regulations, particularly regarding watershed protections. 3 of their previous projects had resulted in significant contamination incidents, all quietly settled out of court. His phone buzzed with a text from Emily. Found something. Meet at Riverdale Library. 10 a.m. Public place. The caution in her message wasn't lost on Leo. After yesterday's discoveries, nowhere felt safe. At the library, Emily led him to a secluded corner table. I checked my brother's cloud storage, she whispered, opening her laptop. I knew his password. Look what I found from the day before he disappeared. She pulled up a folder labeled Willow Creek Samples Urgent, containing water test results and several photos. The images showed murky discharge flowing from a pipe hidden among rocks, emptying directly into a small stream that fed into Stillwater Pond. This pipe isn't on any official maps, Emily explained. Danny documented elevated levels of hexavalent chromium in the water, a carcinogen associated with industrial waste. The pipe runs from Meridian's property. Illegal dumping, Leo murmured. That's what Daniel discovered. Emily nodded grimly. These results would derail Meridian's new development plans completely. They're trying to build luxury homes on that property. Who'd buy if the water's contaminated? Leo's mind raced. But this still doesn't explain what happened to him, or why the search is being misdirected. I have a theory, Emily said, lowering her voice further. What if Danny went back to gather more evidence and was caught in the act? What if someone from Meridian is influencing the search? It sounded paranoid, but after everything they'd witnessed, Leo couldn't dismiss it. We need concrete evidence linking Meridian to the cover-up. Emily pulled out a small device. I swiped this from Danny's desk. It's a memory card from one of his trail cameras. He sets them up to monitor wildlife for his environmental impact assessments. Leo took the card, examining it. Can we view the files? Not here. It needs specialized software Danny uses. But, Emily hesitated. If you know anyone tech-savvy. Leo thought immediately of Raj, his coding-obsessed classmate. I might. 3 hours later, they huddled in Raj's basement, watching as he worked his magic on the memory card. After several failed attempts, the files suddenly appeared on his screen. Got it, Raj announced. Looks like mostly wildlife footage, but there's a folder with corrupted timestamps. Might be recoverable. After a tense 20 minutes of Raj typing furiously and muttering technical jargon, a video window appeared. The timestamp showed 10:43 p.m. on the night Daniel disappeared. The night footage was grainy but clear enough to show a man in an orange jacket, Daniel, crouching near the hidden pipe with water sampling equipment. He was working quickly, his movements suggesting urgency. Then, a flashlight beam cut through the darkness. Daniel looked up, startled. He hastily packed his equipment and began running away from the light source. He wasn't lost, Emily whispered, her voice breaking. He was running from someone. Raj continued recovering files, revealing more fragmented footage from other cameras. None showed what happened to Daniel after he fled, but one captured a disturbing image: 2 men in Meridian Development uniforms searching the same area the following morning. We need to take this to the police, Leo insisted. Emily shook her head. We tried that route. They've been dismissive from the start. What if Meridian has influence there too? Leo thought about Officer Martinez's disinterest and the search coordinator's refusal to consider Emily's suggestions. You might be right. Further digging into Meridian revealed that the company's owner, Victor Hargrove, had made substantial donations to the Oak Ridge Police Department's equipment fund. More troublingly, Detective Collins, the lead investigator on Daniel's case, was Hargrove's brother-in-law. It's a cover-up, Emily said, her voice hollow. The whole search has been a sham. Leo stared at the connections they'd mapped out. We need to gather everything: the water test results, the recovered footage, the financial ties, and take it to someone who can't be bought off. But who? Emily asked. If the local police are compromised. Leo thought for a moment. My uncle works for the Environmental Protection Agency. He could connect us with federal authorities. And we should document everything for the press, just in case. As they compiled their evidence, Leo received another anonymous email. Final warning. Back off or suffer consequences. Your parents' car brakes might fail. Emily's scholarship recommendation could disappear. Choose wisely. Leo showed Emily, whose face drained of color. They're threatening our families now. Which means we're getting too close. Leo replied, his resolve hardening. We need to move fast. They spent the rest of the day creating secure backups of all their evidence. When Detective Collins unexpectedly showed up at Emily's door that evening, claiming he just wanted to ask a few follow-up questions, she pretended ignorance while her laptop quietly uploaded their findings to a secure cloud drive Leo had created. The detective's seemingly casual questions about where they'd been in the park and whether they'd disturbed any potential evidence confirmed their suspicions. The authorities weren't just ignoring their leads, they were actively working against them. As Collins left, he delivered what sounded like a friendly warning. You should probably stay out of this investigation from now on. These woods can be dangerous for teenagers playing detective. Emily called Leo the moment Collins drove away. They're closing in. We need to go public before they can stop us. I agree, Leo said, his heart pounding. But we need to be strategic. One wrong move, and all our evidence could be discredited, or worse, destroyed. What had started as a mysterious reflection in a pond had become a life-threatening conspiracy. And tomorrow, they would risk everything to expose it. Leo and Emily met at dawn at a 24-hour diner 2 towns over, away from prying eyes in Oak Ridge. They'd agreed not to communicate electronically, aware now that their phones and computers were likely being monitored. Did you contact your uncle? Emily asked, her voice low despite the empty diner. Leo nodded. He put me in touch with an EPA investigator. But they need time to mobilize, and we don't have time. So we go with Plan B, Emily said, sliding a USB drive across the table. Everything's here: Danny's water tests, the trail cam footage, the financial connections between Meridian and the police. I added photos of the threatening emails they sent us. Leo pocketed the drive. Are you sure about this? Once we contact the press, there's no going back. Emily's eyes hardened. They threatened our families, Leo. And my brother is still out there somewhere. I'm done playing it safe. They had researched their options carefully. Local news outlets were too risky. Meridian's influence might extend to them as well. Instead, they'd identified Catherine Chin, an environmental journalist with a major national publication known for her exposés on corporate pollution scandals. She's expecting our package by overnight delivery, Leo confirmed. And the digital files are uploading to her secure server now. Emily took a shaky breath. What do we do while we wait? We stay visible in public places, Leo replied. Safety in numbers. And we tell our parents everything, so they can be on guard too. Revealing the truth to their families had been the hardest part. Leo's parents had cycled through disbelief, anger, and finally, horrified acceptance. Emily's mother had broken down completely, the confirmation that her son might have been deliberately harmed shattering her last hopes for a simple explanation. For 3 agonizing days they waited. Leo jumped at every unexpected sound. Emily barely slept. Then, on the 4th morning, the story broke. Corporate cover-up, missing hiker uncovered toxic dumping scheme, screamed the headline. Catherine Chen's article was meticulous, laying out the evidence of Meridian Development's illegal waste disposal, the compromised search effort, and the coordinated attempts to silence those seeking the truth. The response was immediate and overwhelming. By noon, federal EPA agents and state police had descended on Willow Creek Park, cordoning off the area around Stillwater Pond. Meridian's offices were raided, computers and documents seized. Detective Collins was placed on administrative leave pending an investigation. Leo and Emily watched the news coverage together, surrounded by their families. "It worked," Leo whispered, hardly daring to believe it. But the most important question remained unanswered: where was Daniel Reeds? The renewed search, now led by state authorities with cadaver dogs and advanced thermal imaging equipment, concentrated on the areas Leo and Emily had identified. Meridian's adjacent property was thoroughly searched as well, despite the company's lawyers' protests. 2 days into the expanded search, Emily received the call they'd been both hoping for and dreading. She put it on speaker so Leo could hear. "Ms. Reeds, this is Captain Larson with the state police. We've found a structure on Meridian's property, an abandoned maintenance shed about half a mile from where the pipe empties into the stream. There's evidence someone's been inside recently." Emily gripped Leo's hand so tightly he winced. "My brother?" she asked, barely able to form the words. "We've found a male individual," Captain Larson confirmed. "Alive, but in need of medical attention. We're airlifting him to Memorial Hospital now." The reunion at the hospital was both joyous and sobering. Daniel Reeds lay pale and thin in his hospital bed, dehydrated and with a badly infected leg wound, but alive. He confirmed what they had pieced together. He'd discovered Meridian's illegal dumping operation and returned to collect samples as evidence when he was spotted by security personnel. "They chased me through the woods," Daniel explained weakly. "I fell down a ravine trying to get away, injured my leg. When I heard them getting closer, I hid in that old shed. But the door locked behind me. I was trapped. I had some water and energy bars in my pack, but they ran out days ago." The doctor later told them privately that Daniel wouldn't have survived another 48 hours without treatment. In the weeks that followed, the full extent of the corruption unfolded. Victor Hargrove and 3 Meridian executives were indicted on charges ranging from environmental violations to attempted manslaughter and obstruction of justice. 2 officers from the Oak Ridge Police Department, including Detective Collins, faced charges for their role in the cover-up. The media dubbed it the Stillwater Conspiracy, and environmental activists held up Daniel Reeds as a hero. But for those closest to the case, the publicity wasn't the point. "I still can't believe it all started with a selfie," Leo said as he and Emily sat by Stillwater Pond a month later. The area was now part of an expanded conservation zone, protected from development. Emily smiled, watching a blue heron glide across the water's surface. "You noticed what no one else bothered to see. You could have dismissed it, but you didn't." Leo shrugged, embarrassed by her praise. "Your brother would have done the same for someone else." "That's what Danny said when he asked to meet you," Emily replied. "He wants to thank the kid who refused to let his trail go cold." As they walked back along the now official Reed's Trail, Leo thought about the reflection that had started it all, a distant figure in an orange jacket, visible only because he had bothered to look closely. Sometimes, he realized, the truth was like that, present all along, waiting for someone to care enough to really see it.